One cast member vanished after a behind-the-scenes feud and didn't return for nearly 30 years. Another became one of the biggest stars in the world before a moment at the Oscars changed everything overnight. And the man who played Uncle Phil was doing something off-screen that made his role feel almost real. What actually happened to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air cast after the show ended? Because the truth is, their real stories didn't just continue. They went in completely different directions. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air gave us one of the most iconic TV families of all time. But once the cameras stopped rolling, things changed fast. And not always in the way you'd expect. If you enjoy revisiting classic shows like this, consider subscribing to Backtrack TV, because that 30-year feud we mentioned earlier, we'll come back to it. Let's start with someone whose real life was nothing like the character you remember. Joseph Marcel, better known as Jeffrey, the sarcastic butler who always had the perfect comeback. But there was something about Jeffrey that always felt a little different. A calm control, a precision in delivery, a sense that he wasn't just reacting, he was choosing every moment carefully. That wasn't accidental. Long before Fresh Prince, Marcel was trained in classical theater, Shakespeare, stage work, live performance. The kind of training where timing isn't just important, it's everything. And when the show ended, he didn't chase bigger sitcom roles or Hollywood fame. He made a decision that most TV actors never do. He stepped away. Not because he had to, because he wanted to return to what he respected most, the stage. Specifically, the Royal Shakespeare Company. For many actors, that's the peak of the craft, not the beginning. And instead of easing into it, he took on one of the most demanding roles in all of theater, King Lear. A role known for its emotional weight, its complexity, and the sheer endurance it requires. This wasn't just a career move, it was a complete shift. From delivering punchlines in a living room set to carrying one of the most intense tragedies ever written. But while he leaned deeper into his craft, another cast member was quietly doing something just as impressive, just in a completely different way. And most people never noticed. Tatiana Ali grew up as Ashley Banks, the youngest member of the family, the one viewers watched mature over the course of the show. But behind the scenes, her life was moving at a completely different pace. Because while filming a hit sitcom, she was also preparing for something most child actors never attempt: Harvard. Not later, not after the show, during. She balanced filming schedules with academic deadlines, moving between sets and classrooms, and managing both at a level that required serious discipline. But even that wasn't the most surprising part, because at the same time, she launched a music career, and not as a side hobby. Her debut album, Kiss the Sky, produced a hit single, Daydreamin', which climbed the Billboard charts. This wasn't just recognition, it was success. So while audiences still saw her as Ashley, she was building a completely different identity behind the scenes. Student, artist, performer, all at once. But while Tatiana was adding more to her career, another cast member made a decision that went in the opposite direction. She walked away. At the exact moment most actors would hold on tighter, Karyn Parsons, Hilary Banks. Confident, stylish, effortlessly funny. One of the most recognizable characters on the show. And then, she stepped back. Not because her career stalled, because she chose something else. Instead of continuing in Hollywood, Parsons shifted her focus towards storytelling in a different form. She founded an organization dedicated to uncovering lesser-known Black history, stories that often weren't taught or widely shared, stories that changed how people understood the past. And she didn't stop there. She became an author, writing books that brought those stories to life for younger audiences. So while many expected her to stay in front of the camera, she began shaping narratives behind the scenes. But while her exit was intentional, another major change on the show wasn't, and it left fans confused for years. Because one of the most important characters suddenly felt different. Daphne Maxwell Reid stepped into the role of Aunt Vivian, and audiences noticed immediately. The tone shifted, the dynamic changed, and for many viewers, questions started forming. But what most people didn't know was that Daphne Maxwell Reid brought her own groundbreaking history into the role. Before Fresh Prince, she had already become the first black woman to appear on the cover of Glamour magazine, a milestone that mattered far beyond television. So while audiences focused on the change, there was a much bigger story behind it. And that story connects directly to something we've been building toward: the feud. But before we get there, we need to talk about someone who became a cultural phenomenon almost instantly: Alfonso Ribeiro, Carlton Banks. The character wasn't just funny, he was unforgettable. And the dance? It became one of the most recognizable moments in television history. People copied it at parties, referenced it in other shows, associated it completely with him. But that kind of recognition comes with a downside, because when something becomes that iconic, it can define you. For years after the show ended, Ribeiro struggled with typecasting. Every audition came with the same expectation. Every opportunity carried the same association. At one point, he admitted that the role made it harder for casting directors to see him differently. And the Carlton dance only reinforced that. It followed him everywhere. At one point, he even tried to legally claim the dance, not just to protect it, but to gain some control over how it was used and associated with him, because it had become bigger than he expected. But instead of staying stuck, he pivoted. He moved into hosting, a different format, a different audience, a different identity. He won Dancing with the Stars. He became the host of America's Funniest Home Videos. And slowly, perception began to shift. Not just Carlton, Alfonso. But while he was working to redefine himself, another cast member had already disappeared completely. And for years, fans didn't know why. Janet Hubert, the original Aunt Vivian. Strong, confident, a central presence in the early seasons. And then suddenly, she was gone. No explanation on screen, no transition, just replaced. Behind the scenes, something had clearly gone wrong. Tension had been building, and eventually, it became public. A feud. At the center of it, Janet Hubert and Will Smith. And at the time, both sides told very different versions of what actually happened. Some pointed to creative differences, others to something far more personal. There were disagreements about direction, concerns about professionalism, frustrations that built over time. And without a single clear explanation, the story grew. Interviews added new details. Silence added even more questions. And over time, it became one of the most talked about conflicts in sitcom history. Years passed, then decades, nearly 30 years without resolution, until 2020, when something unexpected happened. They sat down together, face to face, and instead of confrontation, the conversation was honest. They talked about pressure, misunderstandings, how different their experiences had been during the show. And slowly, the tension that had lasted decades began to ease. It didn't erase everything, but it changed the tone. And for the first time in years, there was closure. But the person at the center of that feud was also building something far bigger than anyone could have predicted. Because before Fresh Prince, Will Smith was in serious financial trouble. Despite early success as a rapper, he owed millions in IRS tax debt. And when this show came along, it wasn't just another opportunity, it was a lifeline. This was his first acting role. No formal experience, but something about him worked immediately. His charisma, his timing, his ability to connect. And when the show ended, he didn't just transition into movies, he dominated them. Independence Day, Men in Black, Bad Boys, one success after another. For years, his career followed a path that seemed almost impossible to disrupt, until one moment changed everything. The 2022 Academy Awards, live television, millions watching, Chris Rock on stage presenting an award. And during his monologue, he made a joke. He looked toward Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, and referenced her shaved head, comparing her to G.I. Jane, a film where the lead character has a similar look. At first, Will Smith appeared to laugh, but moments later, something shifted. Because what the audience knew, and what Chris Rock may not have fully considered, was that Jada had been open about dealing with alopecia, a condition that causes hair loss. What might have seemed like a quick joke was tied to something much more personal. Will Smith stood up, walked onto the stage, and in a moment no one expected, he slapped Chris Rock. There was a pause, a moment where the room didn't react, because it wasn't clear what had just happened. Then realization, because it wasn't part of the show, it wasn't scripted, it was real. Within minutes, the moment spread globally. Clips replayed across every platform, and the conversation began immediately, not just about what happened, but why. Because it wasn't just the action, it was the setting, the Oscars, one of the most controlled environments in entertainment, and suddenly, something completely unpredictable had taken over the night. What made it even more surreal was what happened next. Will Smith returned to his seat. The ceremony continued, and later that same night, he won the Oscar for Best Actor. An achievement that should have defined the moment, but instead, it became part of a much more complicated story. Public reaction came quickly. Debates, support, criticism, questions about accountability, questions about context. And for the first time in years, the narrative around Will Smith shifted. Not erased, but changed. Because success was no longer the only part of the story. But behind all of that, behind the rise, the pressure, and the expectations, there was someone who had helped shape him from the very beginning. James Avery, Uncle Phil. On screen, he was the anchor of the family, firm, fair, grounded. But off-screen, his role was even more important. He became a mentor to Will Smith, guiding him early in his acting career, encouraging him to take the work seriously, to go deeper. That famous scene, "Why Don't He Want Me?" It didn't just resonate because of the writing. It worked because of what was happening behind it. James Avery pushed Will to reach something real in that moment, and that influence stayed with him, long after the show ended. When James Avery passed away in 2013, it hit differently. Because it wasn't just losing a co-star, it was losing someone who had shaped the journey, for the cast, and for the audience. Because Uncle Phil wasn't just a character, he represented something bigger: stability, guidance, a sense of family that extended beyond the screen. And even years later, Will Smith would still refer to him as Uncle Phil. Looking back, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air wasn't just a sitcom, it was a turning point. Some found global fame, some chose quieter paths, some experienced conflict that lasted decades, and some left behind something far more meaningful than television. The cast didn't just entertain us, they evolved, they changed, and in some cases, they changed each other. So now we want to hear from you. Which Fresh Prince cast member surprised you the most? And what show should we revisit next? If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Backtrack TV, because sometimes what happens after the show ends is the real story.